we'll go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, I'm Carly Tony. I'm the graduate assistant at the Virginia Credit Union Financial Success Center here at VCU. I'd like to acknowledge that I am broadcasting from here in Richmond, which was built on the land of the Powhatan Nation. And today we're going to be talking some about goal setting, but I'm going to let our money coach introduce herself and tell you more about that.
Hi everyone, my name is Araba. I'm a junior psych major and business minor, and I am a money coach. So we're going to be talking about goal setting, saving strategies, and cash flow today. So that should be fun.
And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I know we usually like to do some pretty interactive presentations, so Araba might be asking you some questions, and I'll keep an eye on that. And if we don't answer right away, I answer at the end, or it's something that I already know is coming in the presentation.
Yeah, so let's talk about setting a savings goal. So just take a second to think about what are some goals that you have that you need to save up for. So these prompts can give some ideas of what those goals might be. So just take a couple minutes to think about these questions. So what is something you love about yourself and your abilities? How do you want to move forward? What can you start, stop, or update? And what is your biggest motivation? So just take some time to think about that. And you can leave your answers in the chat if you want to as well. Yeah. Okay. So we can move on with that and start talking about SMART goals. So at the Money Spot, we make goals using the SMART goal format. Is anyone familiar with this format? Okay. The SMART goal format stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So we can go into each of these in more detail. So with specific, this refers to exactly what we want to accomplish. So we can take an example together. Let's say our goal is to create an emergency fund. So this isn't like really specific, so let's kind of like expand on that. So experts recommend saving 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. So for a specific goal, we can say we want to start with an emergency fund of 3 months worth of expenses. And then measurable. So this is the actual dollar amount of money you want to save. So how much do we need to save to reach our goal? So if we take the example of creating an emergency fund of 3 months worth of expenses, let's say our total expenses for a month is $1,000. So that'll mean the dollar amount that we need for this emergency fund is $3,000. Attainable. So do you have all the tools, resources you need to actually accomplish this goal? So maybe 3,000 seems like too much right now. There are 2 ways we can make this goal more attainable. Does anyone know how we could possibly make this goal more attainable? You can leave the answer in the chat. Yeah, so we can either decrease the amount or extend the timeline. So let's start with an amount that seems more attainable. So maybe 3,000 seems like too much. Let's say we want to start with $500 instead. Okay, so now on to relevant. This is the most important part of the SMART goal just because this is your why. So this is going to keep you kind of motivated and encouraged to reach your goal, even when things like get difficult. So just kind of think about your goals and why you want to reach them. So we'll talk about this more a little later, but why might someone want to start an emergency fund? Why is that important? So just think of some reasons why having an emergency fund is important. Um, yeah, your laptop breaks. You're going to want to need some extra money to cover that. We can also see that, like with this current pandemic, a lot of people have lost their source of income and a lot of financial situations have changed. So it has really shown the need for an emergency fund.
Yeah, somebody else said hospital bills. It's another good one. Can come up
Yeah,
unexpectedly.
that's a good one. And time bound. So the last thing we want to think about is our timeline. So sometimes the timeline is set for us, let's say for paying your rent or a security deposit. For an emergency fund, let's say we want to have $500 in the next year. So with this, that would require us to save about $42 a month. And then we can go back, make sure that's attainable, and adjust as needed. So maybe we decide that we can actually save $84 a month. So this means we could complete our goal of 500 in 6 months, or increase our goal to 1,000 in a year. So does anyone have any questions about savings goals that we just talked about? All right. So we can move into why do we save? So we talked about some reasons why we want an emergency fund. What are some things we might want to save for in the future?
So, Robert, we did get a question here. How much should you save from your paychecks?
So it is recommended to save at least 20%, but remember that like saving anything is better than saving nothing, even if that 20% mark is not possible for you. Yeah, that's a great question. So some other reasons why we may need to save is if we're planning a vacation, saving up for paying rent, any purchases that you can't buy right now. And yeah, so here are some of the most common savings account names from the Ally Bank. Some of these are ones you may have thought about because a lot of us have the same goals. So naming your savings accounts based on your goals is a great way to remember the relevant part of your SMART goals. So why is this important? So a couple of these would be like planning for a wedding, a house, a rainy day. So having that emergency fund. If you're saving up to buy a car or travel, taking vacation, anything that any goals that you may have that you want to save for, just keeping that in mind, naming the goal, kind of keeping track of that, and like remembering your why. Okay, so how can we save successfully? The first thing you want to do is open a savings account with a bank or credit union with low or no fees, where your money will be secure and FDIC insured. So you probably don't want to get checks or a debit card for this account, so you're not tempted to spend this money on anything else. So some people will even go as far as putting their savings account in a different bank than their checking account, or not using mobile banking for their savings account to make it more difficult to transfer that money, so you're not spending it. So like we said before, it can be helpful to name your savings account based on your goal to kind of visually remind you of what it is every time you look at it. And a great saving strategy is to automate your savings so you don't have to think about it. So you can set up a monthly transfer from your checking account, or many employers will allow you to do direct deposit into more than one account. Saving 20% is a good goal to work towards, but remember, like again, saving anything is better than saving nothing. And then finally, you want to track your cash flow so you can see how much you need to save, how much you left over. so you can see where you might be able to save more.
Someone in the chat also mentioned talking about savings, the 50-30-20 rule, which is also something that we recommend. So it's 50% goes to bills, 30% you save for yourself. Oh, we do it the other way. 50% for bills, 30% for wants, 20% for saving. And then he also suggests adjust to your goals, which goes along really well with what we're talking about. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
great question. Yeah, so this quote, a budget tells us what we can't afford, but it doesn't keep us from buying it. Yeah, so keep that in mind. At the Money Spot, we use a cash flow plan rather than a budget because a cash flow plan allows us to track and adjust our expenses rather than having a rigid budget of what we can and can't buy. It's something that we might not stick to. So we use a cash flow plan instead of a budget. So what is cash flow? Cash flow is your income minus your expenses over a period of time. So a cash flow plan is a short-term plan for the future that focuses on long-term goals. No one can predict the future, so knowing what your cash flow typically looks like can help you feel more secured when unexpected situations arise. So how do we build a cash flow plan? First thing you need to know is um, what your monthly income is, what your monthly income and expenses are. If your income is variable or changes every month, try to use either an estimate of each month or an average of at least 3 months. The next part is expenses. So start with your fixed expenses. Who can give me like any examples of a fixed expense? Yeah, so fixed expenses would be anything like rent. If you have a streaming service subscription like Netflix, or car insurance. So fixed expenses are those that stay the same every month. And then, does anyone know any examples of a variable expense? Yeah, a variable expense would be anything like gas, food, or clothes, depending on how often you go shopping. So variable expenses change. We might have more flexibility in how much we're spending on them. So to create your cash flow plan, you're going to need to estimate your expenses each month. So how do you do this? Some people keep receipts, but an easier way to do it in the age of technology is by using online or mobile banking. Um, so use at least 3 months worth of expenses to estimate for your cash flow plan, but more information is always better for that. And you also want to think about when your expenses are due that might not pay every month, like car insurance or textbooks at the beginning of the semester. And then lastly, you want to maintain your cash flow by tracking your actual income and expenses. That way you can adjust your plan as needed. Yeah, so there are two ways to improve your cash flow, and that is to increase your income or decrease your expenses. So based on these questions, what are some ideas you have about how to decrease your expenses? Feel free to leave them in the chat or just think about them. And then what are some ideas that you have about how you can increase your income?
Somebody said eat out less. So
Yeah,
that's one way to decrease spending.
that's a good one. Yeah, for sure. Work another job, but it's a hard thing to balance. Yes.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Getting that extra source of income and working another job. It's a great way to increase your income. Okay. Yeah. So with spending less, think about what habits you can change. Um, so maybe like not eating out as much as you do. Like saying kind of changing that habit, maybe looking for some ways to cook more home meals. Thinking about what fees you can avoid. So if you have a Netflix subscription that you're not getting the most use out of, maybe, not paying for that. What utilities can you avoid? And then what plans can you change? So think more about those when it comes to spending less. And then with making more, what skills do you have that you can, make money from? What resources can you access? What do you have in excess that maybe you can sell and get money from? And then what are some outside of the box options that you have to make more money?
In a similar group I was doing recently, one of the outside the box options that somebody mentioned that I hadn't really thought of before was sometimes you get those emails about like participating in different research studies that can sometimes get you a little bit of like pocket money or a gift card or something. Just always be sure you know what you're signing up for, but
Mhm.
generally it's just like taking surveys or sometimes a couple of vitals kinds of things. So be on the lookout for things like that as well. I thought that was a neat idea.
Yeah, those are good ways. Okay, so yeah, that was the end of my presentation. So I just want to let you guys know that at the Money Spot, I work with four other amazing coaches, and we are peer coaches available to help answer your questions and provide guidance on your unique financial situation. We offer appointments on building your cash flow, creating savings goals, affording college, improving your credit score, and paying down debt. Um, so we really are here for you, here to help you. We are all students, so we understand like navigating through college with finances and becoming more financially literate. To make an appointment with us, you can either visit our website at finsuccess.vcu.edu. All appointments will be held virtually for the spring semester. You can also schedule an appointment through Navigate. So if you make an appointment on there, we're under financial aid, counseling, etc. And then it'll say the Money Spot virtual. Yeah, so you can also email us at the moneyspot at vcu .edu with any questions that you may have, and follow our Instagram for updates about future events and some financial tips.
Well, thanks for coming out today. We've had a great turnout, and so I'm so glad that each of you were able to be here, and I hope that we see you soon in an appointment or at one of our next webinars.
Thank you guys.
Okay, thanks,
Thanks for coming.
everyone.